Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. You want to get into this today? Now, remember yesterday I was telling you about Joe Dispenza, and I love him. He's one of my favorite people. I've read a few of his books. The last one I read was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which sounds kind of like a harsh title, but when you read it, you find yourself in it's a combination of chemistry, psychology, and massive ahas. My whole copy is just nothing but underline. And then I listened to it as well. It's not something that you can just listen to and, get on the bike and spin. Hi, Corliss. It's something that you have to really pay attention to because it's packed with information and it will blow you away. Jama's birthday. Hi, Jama. Good to see you. So I really love this book. I've talked a lot about it just in the last few years, and Dr. Dispenza himself. And I've also made a decision today when I was like choosing my goals and what am I going to do this year and all of that. Well, I've made a decision. If it's safe to travel, I am going to go to one of Dr. Dispenza's workshops. That's been on my bucket list for a while. I'm doing it. So I'll let you know about that too. I think it's going to change my life, and it's one of the reasons why I want to do it. All right, so let's really get into what we're talking about this whole week. We're talking about letting it go. And we're talking about how our feelings oftentimes can dictate what it is that we're doing in our lives. And sometimes it's taking us down the wrong path. Sometimes it's taking us into a place of Groundhog Day and living the same day over and over again. And we don't want to do that. We just don't want to do that. So Dr. Dispenza said something that I think was just absolutely, again, from his book that just blew my mind. He said, your emotions are chemical records of the past. And that is also in adherence to your body. Oh, goodness. What is the name of that book? Something about the body. I can't remember. It's on my bookshelf and I can't see it from here. But it's talking about how the body holds on to our trauma. And we basically, that's the whole thing that happens to us. I had a high school teacher named Mr. Chu. He was my chemistry teacher. And I loved him. He was a great teacher, brilliant teacher. But I hated the subject. I hated everything about it. Kimberline, okay, well, there we go. Kimberline, we love you. Happy birthday. I didn't like chemistry. Can I just raise my hand to that? I didn't like chemistry, also didn't like algebra, also didn't like, any of it. And for whatever reason, I always got put in the the higher classes and had to do the harder work, Remember they had the textbooks for the different levels that you were? I don't know what all that was about. I think it was just kind of crazy. So I think the reason why, and probably you feel the same way. The reason I didn't like algebra and the reason why I didn't like chemistry, especially didn't like chemistry, is I didn't see the application on how this was going to help me into the future at all. It just was like, why are we even studying this? Who cares? What does this have to do with anything? That was my thought. But the fact is, I planned on spending my life behind a keyboard. A typewriter at that time is what I was thinking. I was going to be a writer. More importantly, I was going to be a New York Times best-selling author, right? I had that little dream come true. But I had no intention of being in a lab. That was not what my life was going to be about. I just had no desire whatsoever for any of that. But what I missed, and this is where I'm going with all of this, and I want you to loop into this whole thing, is that there is a chemistry connection between you and your body. I mean, if somebody had taught me that way back when, I don't think we knew that much. I think what we're learning and what we've learned just in the last 10 years about how our bodies work, how our brains work, the mind body connection, which is what Dr. Dispenza is all about, is so amazing, because you can't just sweet talk your way into a new life. You have to understand the chemical reactions that are happening in your bodies. And it's because of this that this happens, because of that 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 happens. And we understand that. We've seen that. I mean, how many of you have done, all the little scientific experiments? I remember for my son's birthday, we made a volcano in the backyard out of the sandbox, the baking soda and pouring the soda. Remember that? Doing all those things? Chemical reaction. That's what that is. We have similar chemical reactions in our bodies, and they direct us into the next thing. This is why we feel the feels. This is why we end up in despair over the inability to change. And this is why I'm talking about this today, because I believe that there's a lot of insight here to help us into that next level of living that we want. If we understand how these connections are made, if we only listen to Mr. Chew, if we understand how these connections are made in our bodies, then we're going to want to make different connections. Amen. So this is the thing is that what we know is that we know this so far, and I've talked about this before. Number one, if you change your thought, you can change your chemistry. If you change a feeling, you can change your chemistry. And more precisely, you've got to change your focus to get there. Amen. Right? I mean, you can't do it if you're just like randomly choosing a thought and then randomly going over here into this next zone and then going back to the same old thing that you used to do. But when your focus shifts, your perception follows. It has to. It has to. I've shared that before, like, the easier one. I mean, I shared on my back patio looking out and trying to tell Mark, hey, look, a pileated woodpecker. He couldn't see it. Mark is 6'1". I am 5'7". From my perspective at 12 o'clock, I could see this pileated woodpecker through all the trees and the branches. He couldn't see it from his perspective of being a little bit taller than I am. So he came down to my level and I shifted his head and I said, right there, then he could see it. It's kind of how empathy works too. We see something from someone else's perspective, don't we? That's what empathy is. But this is what perception is too, is being able to see things from a particular vantage point. And perception leads to different thoughts, obviously. Different thoughts lead to different emotions and different feelings. That is, if you change your perception. So there you go. And that now I'm done. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. We're done. I'm just kidding. But that is the hierarchy. That's how it all works. It's this, then that, then this. Boom. There you are. You've also heard the perception, metaphor of, a turtle sees things very differently than a giraffe does. Perceptions need to be altered and adjusted. It's not just your perception, by the way. It's not just my perception, it's other people's. This is how we get into the place of understanding great compassion and love, by the way, as well. We can do this for ourselves as we understand that sometimes our perceptions are warped. They're warped. We believe something that's simply not true about ourselves, or simply not true. We've been, basically conditioned. And that's what we're ultimately talking about, is the ability to orchestrate all of this. Our ability to orchestrate our body's response to a thought. So your thoughts then send the signals that change your biology, regardless of what they are, and regardless of if they're true or not. I want that to sit with you for just a second, because I believe that oftentimes we tell ourselves these non-truths about ourselves, like, I'm not worth it. I am not, I'm not enough, or if only because I am X. This is why I always say identify with something you've done. Don't say that this is who you are. In other words, I am a morning person, or I am a night owl should instead be I tend to stay up late, right? Because we don't want to identify with something that's damaging. We want to identify with something that helps to perpetuate the health and the vitality and the vibrancy and everything else that we want in our lives. So when we say I am and whatever it is, it needs to be a powerful statement always. Always. If it's not, it's taking you down. We don't need to do that anymore. We need to constantly put ourselves back into the place of stepping up into that next level. And we do that simply by understanding that our thoughts are signals. Just like hormones are signals, always a chemical reaction telling our bodies what to do next. And this is why a lot of us believe this big lie that we're not enough. And that is the truth. That is a big, fat lie. It's not true. You might have been conditioned with that kind of a thing as you were growing up, or something happened, you were traumatized in some way, or whatever. The trauma lives in our bodies, but it doesn't have to have that container anymore. We can, at any point, choose to discard it, and at any point, choose to change our perception, change our thoughts, change our feelings, and allow for a different response and a different signal and a different change and shift to happen. So as our brains signal, our bodies interpret that message, for better or for worse, for good or for bad, for beautiful or for ugly. And for my heart is that everyone has an opportunity to see the truth of this, so that when the ugly stuff starts to crop up, and believe me, it will. If you've suffered, right? Raise your hand if you've suffered. If you've suffered, then you know that our perception of what has happened to us in our lives has a tendency to make the call on how it is that we respond. Not how we want to, but what has happened. The trauma of that is the thing that's making the call. That's why it's so important that we change our perception. And this is the whole deal. As our brains signal, our bodies interpret these messages, just like I said, but it's through analysis and evaluating. We do this all the time because we take the emotion out of it. That's how we can evaluate. We can't evaluate when we're clouded with all these emotions and all these old thoughts and all the garbage that comes up. We interpret pretty lousily if we're not doing this clear-headed. We have to be analytical. We have to be undo everything and just look at it and say, okay, so what's what here? What is going on? What is this about? That's one of the reasons I have you use a timesheet to time block. So because oftentimes we are clouded in our thinking of where our time is really going. We think we're doing something, we can't figure it out. Then we put it on paper and it's, aha, this is what it is. Same thing with a food journal. We think we're doing all these things and eating healthfully, and then all of a sudden, as we're keeping a food journal, we realize that we are unconsciously stuffing chips into our mouth, right? Or cookies or whatever. These things bring us to the place of connecting, making that connection again with what it is that we're doing and what it is that we want. And if they're missing each other, we've not only analyzed what's up, we've analyzed what's wrong too. So that's how we see the truth and the non-truths of what the heck is going on in our lives and what we're thinking and what we're believing about ourselves. Our feelings are our feelings are our feelings. We're never going to dismiss them. But also, feelings can lie and tell you something that's patently not true. Have you ever experienced that? Have you ever experienced that and all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, wait a minute. I am enough. I am worthy. I am loved. I am put here by God on purpose and for purpose. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. That's the aha moment that we all need to come to, because the truth, that is the truth. And that's the thing that sets you free from all this garbage. We all have garbage. Come on. You can't get through life unscathed. You can't get through life and come this far without your share of suffering. Sometimes it's more than enough, right? Pinkies up for more than enough. But psychologists tell us that the shift in thoughts and focus will automatically create different chemistry in your body. That's the good news. Isn't that so cool? Automatically. It's not like you have to do anything. You just have to think something different. But that body chemistry, hopefully the new and improved kind, will change your feelings, which is a direct expression of your emotions. Because what do our emotions do? Emotions create the experience of feelings, right? The emotions come, the feelings get expressed. That's how the difference between those two. So Dr. Joe Dispenza reminds us that the body is the objective mind. This is important. Underline this part of the talk here, okay? My TED Talk that I haven't given. It doesn't know the difference between something actually happening and something that's happened in the past, if there is the same emotional baggage that goes with it. Remember I told you about the concert pianist, right? They did a brain scan on a concert pianist, and they did it while he was playing. They did it while he was just pretending to play, but all the while how he felt as he was doing it. The brain scans were exactly the same, proving the point that your brain doesn't understand the difference between something that has actually happened versus something that is an experience. So when you go through this whole, rigmarole of reliving and reliving and reliving past experiences of being done wrong, of being victimized, or whatever the garbage is that you've, made a decision to think about, it's as if you're doing it over and over again. It's as if you're reliving it, literally reliving it. That's how your body interprets it. That's how your body signals. So when we don't take the time to evaluate, is this thought truly serving me? Is this thought truly helping me? Does it serve my emotional state of being? Is it affecting the way I feel and respond? When we don't take the time to do all of this, what happens? We end up with Groundhog Day. And it's a Groundhog Day kind of existence. Clock goes off, and I Got You, Babe is playing. You saw the movie, right? And we live this same day over and over and over again until finally we don't. If we're not aware of it, if we don't get to the place of awareness, and that's exactly where most folks end up living, is in a state of unawareness. And if we decide that we want to live a life that's different, then we're going to have to bring it down to the granular level, the stuff that I'm talking about us. Now, there's this thing called fight or flight. You've heard about it before? Adrenaline junkies, anyone? Gosh. So when we have our adrenaline constantly turned on, and there isn't a wild animal, running for us, running after us, what we have instead is we find ourselves, we're late for picking up a kid from soccer practice, or we're late for doing this, or we're doing that, or whatever. And we find ourselves switching on that switch and living in this burnout way of the adrenaline constantly pumping. And here's what happens. That becomes our new homeostasis. That becomes our new balance. That becomes our new way of living our lives. And when we come to this place in our lives where we decide it's time to correct this, I'm burned out, I'm exhausted all the time, I'm wired and tired, I can't do this, it's because of all of this. And it's our thoughts that are creating this overload of stress, and then our bodies are just responding merely. That's what's going on here. So what we need to do is we need to change this, Remember the movie Speed? The Sandra Bullock, and she's in the school bus, and if she touches the brake, the school bus will blow up. I don't remember what that is, but that's exactly how we're living our lives. With this, here comes a scary turn, and we're just going to have to hope for the best. Everybody, hold on, because you can't put on the brake. Can't put on the brake. This is when we live like that. And the thing is that our mind-body connection is now conditioned to that, this adrenaline junkie form of life. And when that happens, over time, we're going to get sick. Our bodies can't handle that. We're going to get sick. And Dispenza hypothesizes that if we can think thoughts that make us sick, we can also think thoughts that make us well. That's what his whole book is about, by the way. That's why the title is what it is, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Like I said, I highly recommended read. It's heavy. Go, pencil, highlighter, listen to it on Audible, study it, because it's mind-bending. So we've talked about this enough. Now what do we do? How do we break this emotion plus the thoughts plus this chemical cycle that's going on inside of us so that we can create a healthier response and a healthier body and get out of this cyclical habit of creating disease? Essentially what happens. I say this from experience, because when my thyroid broke, so to speak, it was directly due to trauma that had happened in my life, right? I was having anxiety attacks. I had, this. I mean, everything just completely fell apart due to trauma. I can directly pinpoint it. I can pinpoint the phone call. I can pinpoint all of it. Plantar fasciitis, all of it. So what do we do? Well, to start, we have to realize that, number one, this is going to feel weird. It's going to be uncomfortable, and your amygdala is going to fight you tooth and nail every step of the way. Remember, the amygdala is our monkey brain. It's the one that says, let's breathe, let's eat, let's get something to drink, and let's have sex so we can procreate and have children into the future. That's pretty much it. And the monkey brain's whole thing is to keep you doing all these things that you need to do and to keep you safe. So the monkey brain then keeps the monkey brain's idea of safe is the same thing. Regardless, I mean, if you're living in an abusive relationship for 30 years, to do something different, even though it's that traumatic, is an unsafe thing according to the monkey brain. Just keep that in mind. Your monkey brain isn't a deep thinker, right? That's the prefrontal cortex's job. Number two is to notice the feeling. See how you are feeling and notice yourself noticing this stuff. And watch yourself from, back up and just take a peek. Okay, so this happens, then I do this, and this is what this all feels like. This is called, psychologists call it metacognition, the awareness and understanding of one's own thought processes. Because if we don't think about our thinking, if we don't analyze it and we don't get into it, we just don't understand why are we doing the same thing over and over again, Groundhog Day style? Why? Well, if we want to know why we're doing it, then we got to get into that. We notice that we're doing it in the first place. Notice how you feel. Your feelings are going to tell you what you're thinking, and your thinking and what you're getting and the results in your life are the reasons. I mean, that's your evidence, hardcore evidence right there. So when you start noticing these things, then suddenly you're going to be gathering more information, and you'll be able to make a better shift. Number three, the process starts with really great, by the way. Oh, this is it. I'm so stoked. I'm hyped. Let's go do this. Boom, boom, boom. Go team. Pinkies up. I'm here. And then 2 hours later, you're thinking, well, maybe it wouldn't hurt if I had a little cracker and some cheese or whatever from the thing. Maybe it wouldn't hurt. Maybe whatever. Because remember this, that as we start out great, the amygdala is like, okay, whatever, let's just Give this girl a minute. I'll be here. Hold my beer, right? That's the amygdala. Hold my beer. Da da da. Here comes the Jeopardy music, and then boom, the amygdala attacks. You can't do this. That's not going to work for you. Are you kidding? You need a snack. It's been 3 hours since you ate. Don't listen to this. Let's do this instead. Right? That's the amygdala's job. Make your life miserable. Not just keep breathing, but also keep doing the same thing you've been doing, girl. That's been working so far, regardless of the outcome. So, change to the amygdala for anything means danger, risk, the unknown, impending doom and disaster. That's what the amygdala thinks. Remember that when the amygdala is giving you grief. Because I will tell you, one thing that the amygdala does is reward you heartily when you make a decision to not listen to her. For example, again, back to that whole body chemistry. If you say, you know what, shut it up, pipe down, amygdala. I'm not going to have a snack. Instead, I'm going to go for a walk. Instead, I'm going to take the dog for a walk, or I'm going to go read this book, or I'm going to write in my journal. I'm going to do this instead. And you do it instead. Notice how you feel. You get a boom. You get this absolute amazing hit of dopamine. See? Chemical reaction from the body. And the amygdala, for the first time, is supporting you. The amygdala is saying, okay, all right, I'll give you this one. There's a fight still. It's not over, but you won this time. And the more you do it, the more you get the amygdala to pipe the heck down. So there you go. There you go. That's how this whole thing works. Now remember, your amygdala is going to say, stay on the couch, just one more game on your phone. Let's watch another thing of Netflix. Let's not worry. We'll go to bed early tomorrow. Your amygdala is always, always, always going to want to stay the same, but you can get ahead of her knowing exactly how to handle her. Amen. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult because the amygdala is not that complex. All right. So number 3 is to realize this is a new program that you're putting out for your whole brain. If you're trying to do something different and you're trying to connect all the dots between your thoughts and your feelings and actually doing something and having something different, then you're going to have to, you've got a new thing to learn. This is a new thing to learn. No big deal. Okay? You remember the concert pianist I just talked about? How do you think he started? It started with scales. It started with remember the canon? It was Hanon. That was the exercise books when I took piano for 5 years. You had to you had to do all that stuff, right? You don't get to concert pianist that quickly. Or does everybody remember that beautiful cross stitch that Jenny made me and Mark for our wedding? Do you remember that? Now, that is not from some amateur 9-year-old who's just learning how to cross stitch with a little something that grandma gave her. This is art. This is craftsmanship over the years. This is working on how it's done. And you know that you don't just do it. You don't just go into that great big adventurous project. You start with the smaller ones before you can go to the bigger ones. So realize and recognize that you're just merely learning basically a new language, a new craft, a new way, and allow yourself that process. The process that's where all the details are. That's where all the stuff is. So demystify the process by understanding everything, including this stuff, has a starting place. Everything. Number 4 is think and do in equal parts. I love this one because, we can sit for a long time thinking about it, maybe planning it, even writing it out. But as you think, then go do, because that underscores your thought. And as you do, then high five yourself. Way to go, Leanne, you just worked out. That is something that you are going to experience allowing your amygdala to know it really see how safe it was. Give me that dopamine hit, sister. Give it to me, right? It reinforces those new thoughts. It reinforces this new way of being. I want you to remember too, we've talked about this before, how Michael Phelps, I think it's one of the things that made him stand out as the athlete that he was. He thought every race that he did, I mean, he prepared and he had prepared and he had prepared. He had prepared as much as he could. But the thing that was different, the thing that drew the line between him and his competition, they were all equally talented, weren't they? Maybe Michael Phelps had a little something extra. He also had a mindset that was different. Tiger Woods had this, our friend Diana Nyad. They saw what it was that they were trying to do. They visualized it in their head. Creating this vision in your head this is an edge. This is the way to really make this happen. So, when I'm going to tell you too, that when Michael Phelps was touching that edge, he wasn't just merely seeing it and going, okay, I see the edge. All right, let's go to the next thing. No, he was seeing the edge. He was feeling the edge. He was emoting. He was going bonkers over the edge. When we are connected emotionally, remember what I just went through. We're connected and reliving something as if it had happened, and it hasn't. This is how we get to those places of things on our vision boards becoming alive and real and true and living in them, like I am with this house. Same thing. Same exact thing. Number 5, rely on your inner world, not your outer world. What do I mean by that? There is a good chance that not everybody's going to get on your side and say, way to go, girlfriend. So proud of you. No, you're going to have all the amateur nutritionists coming out of the cracks and crevices of your life to tell you you're doing it wrong. You should be doing it this way. And are you crazy? You're going to lose muscle. You're doing this, you're doing that. When you've made a decision to do something different, sometimes people just show up and decide it's time for me to stick my nose in your business and give you my 2 cents. Other times, we have these problems. They don't seem to be going away. They seem to exacerbate themselves just simply by a constant showing up, an ex-husband, an old boyfriend, a problem family member, something. It doesn't make magically all your problems go away. It just makes your handling of them better. Really. So don't give your power away to circumstances. Amen. We do that a lot. We say, but then this happened and there it went everything. Well, I get that. It's because we have allowed for our power to escape. We hold the key to that. No one else does. No one's holding a gun to your head and saying, okay, now give me all your power. No one. No one. Your thoughts and your feelings are the things that control you. Your reaction controls you. The way you choose to show up controls you. You are making those choices. That's your decision and yours alone to make. So the devil didn't make you do it. Remember Flip Wilson? Oh, the devil made me do it. Because Flip Wilson in that sketch, if you remember, and you're as old as me, was always deflecting to someone else. Oh, this happened. So I blame this, or I blame that, or I blame this. Take full responsibility for your life, full responsibility for your reaction, full responsibility for your thoughts and for your processes and for the whole bit. Because when you do, you give yourself permission to hold on to your own power. You hear me? You are powerful. Fearfully and wonderfully made. Come on. Of course you're powerful. Of course you have the ability to do this. Of course you can step into the next level and the higher level of yourself. Of course you can connect with all of this. We have, all of us, old, worn out, no longer serving as thought patterns. All of us. We can at any point disconnect from all of it. And if we continue to fight this good fight, we're going to align with our body-mind connection. Heart, mind, body, soul. That's what this is all about. And guess what? Here's the best part. We will feel safe again. Yes, we will. We'll feel safe. We will feel we'll not only be able to cope, but we'll have hope. And our hearts and minds will rejoice because they've been reunited. That's what this is about. We live our lives disconnected from how we truly feel. And we don't understand and realize we have the power to disconnect from the garbage that's holding us back. We do. And that creates the chemical connection, and that's what creates the connection. Did I say that correctly? That's what creates the chemicals that create the connection, is what I meant. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I tell you, I love this stuff. To me, it's a mind blower because it changes my behavior. It changes the way I look at things, and it changes the way that I understand things, because we can do things differently if we dare to do it. And I double dog dare you. Double dog dare you to do it. That's all I have for you today. But tomorrow's Wise Women's Wednesday, and Lord knows what's going to be unpacked tomorrow. It's going to be a good one, though. That's my thought. Peace be with you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.